Media's Mining Weekly is interviewing Sam Mokorosi, the head of origination and deals of the Johannesburg Stock Exchange. And we're speaking about this year's listing of Copper 360 on the JSE alternate exchange, the Altex. Hi, Sam. What has the JSE done in recent years to make it demonstrably easier for companies to list on the smaller end of the exchange?
What we've done is that we've gone through a whole regulatory process, including cutting a lot of red tape. So some of those activities and requirements in the listings requirements that don't actually add investor protection, but take a lot of time and effort for issuers to do. I've also put out a survey on even segmenting the main board to say, does your trillion rand company need the same kind of rules and regulations as a 100 million rand company, and where is that cutoff, etc., around things like category transactions, etc. And then, Martin, we've also introduced even kind of new rules around dual class shares, which allow founders to have better voting rights to steer the direction of the company, just like they do in Silicon Valley. Of course, ours does have a 10-year sunset clause, but those are some of the things that we've done to help make it easier to list and stay listed.
And have you got good response to that?
So the market response has been quite promising, and we've seen some listings come through. Obviously, the macroeconomic environment is a hindrance for new listings, and the fact that the market turmoil has been a bit of an off-putting factor as well. But we've certainly seen some momentum. We'll be welcoming Primary Healthcare Properties, which is an inward listing from the UK, which is really exciting for us because it allows investors to have access to offshore markets, but that those shares are still categorized as local because they've inward listed here onto the JSE.
And will South Africa ever be able to attract listings in the same way as other mining jurisdictions such as Canada and Australia?
Yeah, look, Martin, I think that Canada and Australia have a lot of things going for them, even though our mining activity is quite strong. That investor universe is very different from ours. So it's very strong in retail investors, which are able to take risk with much smaller junior mining companies and exploration companies. But we are trying to copy some of the great things that they have in Australia and Canada. So flow through shares, for example, have been instrumental in bringing investment into exploration companies in Canada. That's something that we've been speaking to the regulators about to see, can we explore putting that in South Africa. Superannuation in Australia allows for some investors to use their pension to do some stock picking, and that's been excellent for mining companies, specifically juniors and exploration companies. And that's something that we are exploring as well, to really bring back that flurry of junior mining and exploration mining listings onto the JSE.
And what were the drivers that led to Copper 360 being able to list successfully on the Altex?
Yeah, so I mean, Copper 360 is a really exciting story. Tapping into some of the ESG, some of the green, some of the electric vehicle movements that we're seeing all over the world. Obviously, a lot of these renewable energy projects and electric vehicles need a lot of copper for them to work. And so I think investors saw the potential in Copper 360, and they were able to raise funds and list on the exchange. I think they were oversubscribed in their fundraise, and so that's been really excellent to see. And it's really been good to see the developments in the company as they've increased their reserves and continued to grow as a company from a minerals perspective.
And had Copper 360 not committed itself to a listing, would it, in your view, have been able to raise the 152 million rand that it was seeking?
Look, of course, it's always hard to tell, but what we hear from investors is that when you list, and that's whether listing debt or equity, you always broaden the number of investors that can look at you. So your large asset managers struggle to invest in unlisted instruments because their mandates require a listing. So certainly we are of the opinion that the fact that it was a listing does open up their universe of potential funders, because the investors that don't have a preference of whether you're listed or not can participate in a listing, and then those investors that definitely need a listing then can also participate in a listing. So it's all about broadening that base of potential investors.
And what should be done in South Africa to incentivize individuals, retail investors, to invest in greater numbers on the JSE?
We've been doing a lot of educational type of work. One of the challenges is that a lot of small caps that do capture the imagination of the retail investors have reduced retail research coverage. So we've introduced, for example, investor showcases where we will have managers come and sit with us and tell us about their great businesses. We even have a stock pick show that is broadcast and lives on YouTube, and we've partnered with Business Day TV as well. And all of this helps just give the market more information about our smaller companies, and we've certainly seen some traction behind that, where company trading statistics and volumes typically get a bit of a boost around the timing of those shows. So that's something that we've certainly seen some activity with.
And Copper 360 is now outspoken. It's got an ambition. It wants to build Africa's next copper giant. Slowly, it says, the ground up. As the 5th biggest stock exchange in the world and the biggest stock exchange in Africa, what can JSE do to help Copper 360 achieve this ambition now?
We continue to present a platform and a marketplace where companies can raise more capital. So I think part of their winning combination is going to be living up to their promises in terms of production levels and cost containment, and really be an excellent operator in the market. And as it shows investors that it can deliver on its promises, time and time again, we've seen that the JSE is a place for companies not only to raise capital upon listing, but secondary capital raises are quite frequent, and they can come back to the market and tap the market. And we have a venue that allows both bonds and equities. And so whether it's looking for debt capital or listed equity capital, that remains available on the JSE.
And what, in your view, Sam, should be the main takeaway from this year's very visible listing of the Copper 360, which, by the way, has described the JSE as being absolutely fantastic?
No, thank you, Martin. I think that the main takeaway is that we remain open for business. Investors are looking for excellent assets, and so anybody thinking about listing, welcome to reach out to us. We'd love to hold your hand on that journey. And investors are keen and ready for excellent opportunities to invest in.
That was Creamer Media's Mining Weekly, speaking to Sam Mokorosi, the head of origination and deals of the Johannesburg Stock Exchange.